Hello everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Watch my video and subscribe my channel. Liam's fog lifts as Finn discovers a scratch under the bandage. Bold and the Beautiful keeps feeding Finn hints, so he doesn't fall into the story that Liam Spencer's fatal tumor has been removed, reversing a death sentence on the CBS soap. Bold and the Beautiful. Finn questions Liam Spencer. Liam Spencer wakes up from his operation to be whisked home at the behest of Grace Buckingham on the Bold and the Beautiful. This is not the typical healing regimen for this type of dangerous surgery, and it worries Finn. Nothing about this procedure and Liam's astonishing recovery makes sense to the young doctor. So when he checks behind Liam's bandage, he is taken away by what he sees. While he sees an incision on Liam's head, it is considerably less than he expected considering the brain surgery he apparently had. So, he asks Liam Spencer questions regarding what Dr. Grace Buckingham had stated to him concerning his surgery. Liam reports that she said nothing, simply that it was a success. As Finn questions Liam on Bold and Beautiful this week, Grace is outside the door listening to all this. It appears she detects the tone in Finn's voice, which transmits his misgivings. B&B, Liam's fog has lifted. Grace Buckingham took control of Liam's diagnosis and treatment from the get-go on Bold and the Beautiful. She had her hands on everything, including the pills she handed him to take. But as time went by, Liam got dizzy and lightheaded, even falling. Everyone assumed these symptoms were part of the sickness. But what Liam revealed this week offers another evidence that he may have never had a tumor. Liam informs Finn that he is feeling much as he did before he got the news. It sounds as if Grace was giving Liam medication to imitate the symptoms that one would expect as the tumor developed. The cloud is gone for Liam Spencer, and he's feeling back to normal, with Finn's suspicion building that there was never anything wrong with the Spencer son to begin with. Bold and the Beautiful. Grace gets angry, fight or flight. We have witnessed how Grace responded to questions about Liam Spencer's operation. When Bridget Forrester questioned her lately on Bold and Beautiful, she blew her stack. She got irritated and then avoided answering any of Bridget's concerns. This reaction overwhelmed Bridget with mistrust, much like what Finn is going through right now on the Bold and the Beautiful. Now that Grace has a notion that Finn is onto her, will she come out swinging with a defense, or will she flee? This storyline is far from over. No one knows why Grace required that $1 million she supposedly conned from Bill Spencer. Once the reason is discovered, she could be redeemed. That's if there is some awful reason that she had to do this. But the CBS serial will undoubtedly feature a twist that either convicts or redeems Grace Buckingham. Bill Spencer gets bad news about Liam. Next week on The Bold and the Beautiful, all eyes will be on miracle patient Liam Spencer now. He is awake. But Bill Spencer could start to notice that something is truly off with his son. Is Liam Spencer still dying? Here's what's coming up next on B&B. Spoilers down below. Grace Buckingham's lies revealed. It's evident on The Bold and the Beautiful that there's something extremely fishy going on with Dr. Grace Buckingham. A widespread hypothesis on social media is that Grace stole Bill's $1 million and never truly removed the tumor, and then lied and gave Liam a clean bill of health. If that's the case, it is only a matter of time before the truth comes out and Liam's family and friends learn the tragic news. When Bill Spencer learned that Liam was shot and battling cancer, he went to the hospital to save the day. Dollar Bill was quick to pay Grace to rescue his son, but he never sought a second opinion or any facts concerning Liam's tumor. It's certainly fortuitous that the inoperable tumor was suddenly operable when Bill opened his checkbook. According to Bold and Beautiful teasers, next week on the soap, Bill will start to feel suspicious. Apparently, Liam isn't getting better as rapidly as his father anticipated him to. Seeing as how money is not an issue, it's only a matter of time before Bill starts parading new doctors through the Spencer mansion that truly specialize in his cancer condition. Bill Spencer learns the truth. If Grace faked Liam's surgery, Bill Spencer is going to find out, and she might want to hightail it out of Los Angeles before he gets a hold of her. Imagine paying someone $1 million to rescue your son, and then celebrating his new lease on life, only to find out that he is still dying. What happens in Naples and Capri? For need-to-know items, the bold and the beautiful spoilers say that there was 4 things you need to know about the Italy scenes. What happens in Naples and Capri that fans must see? Let's examine the twists and turns of the recent Italy scenes. When will the special episodes air? First, let's consider when these special scenes will begin to show on screen. Fans know that Nick Marone started experiencing flashback of himself and Brooke Logan on the July 28th show. Ridge Forrester, Eric Forrester, and Brooke were getting ready to board the jet toward the end of the show. On Tuesday, July 29th, that Italy scenes will begin, and the scenes, loaded with twists and turns, as well as a few boat rides, will continue through August 6th, when the trip finishes with shattered hearts and glad reunions. Who will end up with whom in the end when the Forrester Creations crew heads back to LA as the Italian scenes wind shooting? Nick Marone proposes to Brooke Logan on a boat. Nick becomes a significant part of the tale when the Forrest gang travels to Italy. Brooke and Ridge will have a boat ride, while Ridge still plans on marrying Taylor Hayes when he returns home. Nick will convince Brooke into having a boat ride with him as well. Unfortunately, Nick wants to make his journey with Brooke larger and better. Can we expect trouble? Nick will prepare a special supper for himself and Brooke before dropping his major surprise on Brooke. Nick will bring out a sparkling engagement ring and surprise Brooke with an emotional proposal that should sweep Brooke off her feet. What would Brooke respond considering that Ridge is determined to be with Taylor instead? The Italian backdrop makes for an amazing fashion show. Ridge has made it obvious that this is a fashion vacation and not just for fun. Of course, this implies that lovely Forrester gown will be brought out during these special episodes as well. All of the models will look gorgeous in the new collection. Forrester's new Capri line will appear as part of the partnership with a famous Italian designer named Luisa Beccaria. Forrester fashion will undoubtedly look really good with the Mediterranean sea islands in the background. Ridge Forrester becomes Brooke Logan's hero again. Close to the end of the voyage, it looks that calamity will strike as Ridge rushes into action to save Brooke once again. Ridge may have a future planned with Taylor, but it seems a moment of enlightenment will change his tune. Brooke will take an unexpected dip into the water as Ridge goes into action to save her. Ridge will finally realize what Eric has been trying to tell him for months. Ridge will save Brooke and eventually accept her as his soulmate. Brooke and Ridge will reunite, allowing Nick to set off on his boat and find something else to keep him happy. When the group comes back to LA, Taylor will be heartbroken that Ridge has once again chosen Brooke above her. Will Ridge and Brooke finally be happy? The day began deceptively tranquil at the Spencer mansion, where Liam Spencer, recently recovered from a purportedly inoperable brain tumor, sat in a sun-drenched study sipping herbal tea and blinking at the world with a clarity he hadn't felt in months. Grace Buckingham, the enigmatic and increasingly evasive doctor responsible for his diagnosis and treatment, had rushed him away from the hospital hours after surgery with no formal debrief, no recovery plan, and, most unsettling, no post-operative follow-up from anyone save herself. Now, with a gauze bandage wrapped snugly over his scalp and a fog gradually clearing from his head, Liam's eyes latched onto John Finn Finnegan, the man whose suspicion had grown louder than any voice of diagnosis. The look on Finn's face said it all. Something wasn't right. Something had never been right. With a steady surgeon's hand, Finn peeled aside the edge of Liam's bandage, expecting a smooth, curving incision that coincided with the aggressive tumor extraction Bill Spencer had paid $1 million for. What he found instead was a slight scratch, nothing more than a superficial mark, as if a knife had flirted with the skin but never dared sink into the bone beneath. There was no trace of cranial work, no staples, no swelling, no sutures, just a whisper-thin line across Liam's scalp, as though Grace had desired something obvious enough to soothe observers without ever having cut deep. Finn slumped back in his chair, his mind racing over every medical practice he'd ever learned. every ethical red flag suddenly screaming for attention. "Liam," he replied, voice hushed, "what exactly did Grace tell you after the surgery?" Liam blinked. "Nothing. She just stated it was a success. That's it." Outside the cracked door, Grace stood frozen, her knuckles white against the wood, listening as her fraud unraveled breath by breath. Finn's suspicion ignited into certainty. Grace Buckingham hadn't saved Liam. She'd never even tried. Instead, she'd crafted the perfect illusion, feeding Liam drugs to imitate symptoms, meticulously manipulating his environment, and isolating him from second viewpoints. Liam's dizziness, bewilderment, and collapse had all been artificially induced, disguising a body that was otherwise healthy. "I feel fine," Liam whispered, and for the first time, the words didn't seem like hope. They sounded like truth. The fog was gone. He wasn't dying. He never had been. In a silent wrath, Finn stood and exited the room, knowing Grace was certainly eavesdropping and would either come out swinging or vanish into the night. Her behavior with Bridget Forrester days before had been telling. Explosive flash of defensiveness that further increased the shadows about her integrity. Bridget had stated her doubts, and Grace had responded them not with transparency, but with wrath. Now Finn would confront her straight. But before he could, Bill Spencer arrived, fresh from yet another business meeting, eyes alight with paternal hope, unaware that the miracle he'd purchased was a lie. "How's my boy?" Bill boomed, clapping a hand on Liam's shoulder. "Feeling stronger every day?" Finn stepped forward, blocking the hallway with his frame. "Bill, we need to talk. Privately." Bill's brow furrowed. "What is it?" "It's about the procedure. About Grace." That night, chaos erupted behind the closed doors of the Spencer estate. Finn laid up everything. The lack of evidence of any surgical intervention, the shallow incision, Liam's fast-healing condition without any tumor-related treatment, and most incriminating of all, Grace's refusal to produce paperwork or involve any hospital data. "You were scammed, Bill," Finn remarked bluntly. "There was no surgery." For once, Bill Spencer was silent. He stared at Liam, whose eyes were wide with shock, then at Finn, then at the empty corridor where Grace should have been. But she was gone, disappeared, and with her, the $1,000,000 and whatever sick purpose had motivated her to fabricate a terminal diagnosis in the first place. Finn called Bridget, and together they initiated a formal inquiry, contacting the hospital where Grace had reportedly conducted the procedure. There were no records, no scans, no surgical suite scheduled, nothing. Meanwhile, back at Forrester Creations, word of the scandal began to leak through the ranks. Hope Logan, who had already been reeling from Liam's diagnosis and recovery, now faced a new storm, one that would shatter her trust in everything she believed about her ex-husband's condition. Was Liam an innocent victim, or had he known? That question took root and festered, especially as Steffi Forrester returned from her trip to Italy with Taylor, where Ridge had just saved Brooke from drowning and reunited with her in a love whirlwind. The lavish fashion trip had ended in dramatic reunions and shattered hearts, Taylor's most of all. But today, as the Forrester jet touched down and the press raved about Luisa Beccaria's Capri collection, the focus moved back to Los Angeles, where the main show was unfolding. Liam Spencer, miracle patient, was at the center of a big medical controversy, and Grace Buckingham, once hailed as a great doctor, was now a wanted woman. But doubts lingered. Why had she done it? Where had the money gone? And most pressing, was Liam still in danger? Because even if the tumor didn't exist, there was something else beneath the surface, something Finn had noticed but hadn't yet acknowledged. A flicker in Liam's neurological responses, a brief lapse of recollection. Was Grace covering off a legitimate illness or hiding something more darker? Bill Spencer, now a man spurned and furious, recruited a team of private investigators to track Grace down. His objective wasn't just about collecting his money. It was about retribution, about justice. about making sure no other father, no other son, ever endured this level of treachery again. And as news broke to the public about a probable multi-million-dollar fraud scheme involving a Spencer, a Forrester, and a disgraced doctor, the consequences reached every corner of the B&B canvas. Hope withdrew herself from Liam, unsure whether she could ever trust him again. Steffi, who had just begun to feel safe again, was suddenly split between loyalty to Finn and sympathy for the man who might have been manipulated or complicit. Ridge, still glowing from his Italian epiphany, was pulled into the tempest as Forrester PR hurried to undertake damage control. Even Eric Forrester had something to say, warning Ridge that the true drama wasn't in Naples or Capri, but back home in their own garden. Meanwhile, Liam was in his room, marveling at his reflection. The scratch on his head itched, not from healing, but from embarrassment, from perplexity, from fear. What if the operation was fake, but the diagnosis had been real? What if Grace hadn't cured him because she couldn't? What if she'd simply decided to spare him the truth, and instead sold Bill a fantasy? As Finn prepared a full battery of real medical testing, Liam readied himself for the final reckoning. Not just the truth about Grace, but the truth about himself. His veil had lifted, but what was ahead might be worse than any coma. It might be a truth that wrecks everything. Because in the world of the bold and the beautiful, lies are currency, secrets are weapons, and even a scratch under the bandage may be the beginnings of a storm that affects people forever. Ridge's heroic water rescue. Sheila's detective work. The bold and the beautiful teasers for the week of August 4th to 8th state that Ridge Forrester will pull off a heroic Brooke Logan water rescue while Sheila Sharp considers some investigative work. After Brooke decides she's done playing all these games with Ridge, she'll go all in on Nick Marone and the Italian trip he's planned. Nick has been rushing repairs on the boat he wants to take Brooke out on, which will ultimately prove to be a disaster. There'll undoubtedly be some epic boat disaster that leads in Brooke's plunge into the water, so Ridge will see that stunner. Ridge will plunge in for a dramatic rescue, so that'll reignite a flame between them. Brooke should soften despite her past outburst and accept that her heart is dragging her back toward Ridge once again. Likewise, Ridge will decide he can't keep pretending that Brooke is his true love. Although Ridge cares about Taylor Hayes, she'll never achieve the soulmate status that B&B plays up for Ridge and Brooke. In other words, destiny will win once more. Therefore, Taylor has some sorrow going her way. Taylor and Ridge's engagement won't survive since Ridge is on the approach of recognizing that Brooke is actually his destiny. Nick will experience a crushing blow of his own since he won't get the new beginning he was hoping for with Brooke. Watching Brooke and Ridge reunite should leave Nick heartbroken as he prepares for his B&B farewell. Back in Los Angeles, Sheila may decide to take matters into her own hands. After becoming suspicious about Lee Finnegan and what she's hiding when it comes to Luna Nozoa, would Sheila pursue her and try to learn more? Could the secret of Luna's survival be in jeopardy? Sheila may play detective somehow in the next episodes, and John Finnegan should continuing doing the same on a totally different case. Now that Finn's accumulating more clues regarding Grace Buckingham's deception, it's just a matter of time until he learns out she deceived Liam Spencer and Bill Spencer. Finally, Hope Logan seems prepared to clash with Daphne Rose over her LA return. Thus Carter Walton will no sure get caught in the thick of the conflict. The bold and the beautiful teasers indicate the week of August 4th to 8th will feature some twists and turns. As Brooke reaches her emotional breaking point, Lee goes to the last place you'd expect. Although yesterday Nick was hoping to take Brooke on a romantic boat cruise, Ridge seemingly beat him to the punch. The exes take a lovely cruise over the river to Capri, the tune Unforgettable playing. Fun fact, no other soap does location filming or has the production values of Bold and Beautiful. Sure, the stories being delivered against those backdrops are, let's go with underwhelming. But Don Gade, if witnessing these moments didn't immediately left me eager to phone my travel agency.